One of the beautiful things I think about being in a committed partnership, a romantic partnership, is that it's one of the main places where you're going to get to practice growing into a healthier, more loving, more accepting, more open person, because you're going to be forced to. You're going to have to practice these skills in that relationship because it is hard to be in a romantic relationship. Hello, you beautiful and sexy creature. Welcome to Practice Intimacy. This is the place to be to learn all about love, sex, and how to have the best relationships you possibly can. I'm Jami Lynn. I'm a marriage and family therapist in the Austin area, and we are continuing our series about relational health and how to be in a relationship well. So, today what we're going to talk about is one way of thinking about why we trigger each other and how we trigger each other when we're in a partnership. So I recently heard one of my mentors, this is one of my yoga teachers, say something that I was like, that is spot on. They were talking about how they just don't really get angry and that the only people that can actually make them mad are their mother and their wife. And I was like, yep, that's it. That's totally it. One of the beautiful things I think about being in a committed partnership, a romantic partnership, is that it's one of the main places where you're going to get to practice growing into a healthier, more loving, more accepting, more open person, because you're going to be forced to. You're going to have to practice these skills in that relationship because it is hard to be in a romantic relationship. You feel so much love and desire to connect with this person, and there's so much pain whenever you feel disconnected or whenever it feels as though they're being difficult, whatever that means to you. Like maybe you think they're disrespecting me, they're not listening to me, they're not understanding me, and that's so painful. It really is. It does not feel nearly as painful from other people. It can, but most of the time, because at least in this culture, we put so much stock on the romantic relationship. Usually it's the person we're closest to. Usually it's the person that we want the most connection from. And so when we don't get it, it's really upsetting to our nervous system. All of that said, that's why I love using the romantic relationship as a container for personal growth. You will have so many opportunities to practice becoming more centered, more grounded, more open, more accepting, because this relationship is triggering and difficult. So yay, let's celebrate that if nothing else, right? But let's kind of dig in. So there are many reasons why we struggle in relationship, but I kind of lump it into three big categories. There's three big things that kind of get in the way, and then there's some smaller things that can get in the way too. Most of it has, all of it has to do with our histories. We react to the world based on every single thing that we've learned in our life. You cannot react differently until you learn something different. It's just how we're built. Like your brain cannot do something new until you learn the new thing. And so all of your reactions are based on your history and experience. For some people, this will make sense immediately, but for other people, they won't actually viscerally get this. I did not, until you start really paying attention to yourself more. You have to build a lot of self-awareness before you can start recognizing oh, it is totally true that my reactions, my responses to the world are idiosyncratic, they are purely mine, and they are purely based on everything I have learned about the world in my experience so far. When you start doing that, it actually is really helpful, because then you can start doubting, am I thinking about this right? Am I maybe reacting in a way that other people would not react because of my history, and maybe I could change that? It's nice once you start getting this. But that was a tangent. I do so many tangents. Thank you for sticking with me as we go on this journey together. But the three big things that I often witness is either shame, feeling some kind of fear, being scared, or an ignorance. So in the case of shame, there are a lot of people who have internal beliefs about I'm not enough or I'm too much, no one will ever love me, I'm not worthy. A lot of people have this. And if you have an internal story like that, an internal belief that there's something wrong with you, if you have shame inside, it is going to make it hard to connect with another person, because anytime you pick up judgment from them or even just a little bit of disconnection from them, it could send you into a shame spiral where you feel terrible about yourself, and then it's not possible to be in connection. It's physiologically not possible. When we move into spaces that are shame-filled or terrifying or overwhelming, it's not possible to connect. We need to come a little bit out of that space internally so that we're open and available to connect with another person and begin to learn that, oh, maybe that belief about myself is not true. So that's one thing that can really get in the way and make it difficult to be in relationship. If you're somebody who can fall into shame, it's going to make it hard anytime your partner triggers you, because that's where you will go. It'll feel awful. God, it feels awful when you're in a shame spiral. And either you will be the sort of person who falls into the shame spiral and feels like a terrible person and falls almost into like a depressive state that could last for a short time, a long time. Or you might be a person who, when you hit shame, you start getting really defensive and angry at the person who made. Nobody ever actually makes you feel anything, but in our mind we say that, you made me feel this way. You might get angry or defensive towards the person who activated the shame response in you. And so just kind of be curious about this as you're listening. See if any of this resonates. See if any of this feels true inside of you. And just use that as information. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having these activations, these reactive moments. It's just information. And as you build self-awareness, you have more ability to change it. So in addition to shame, there's another possibility where you are moving through the world with some fear. And it might be fear of this person will hurt me, and that could look different for different people based on their history. For some people, this person could hurt me might mean they could physically hurt me. For another person, for someone else, when they think this person that I'm with could hurt me, it might mean they'll abandon me. Or it might mean they're going to prove untrustworthy, they're going to cheat on me, they're going to lie to me. Whatever the case may be, there's some kind of fear that this person is going to cause me harm and I'm going to be left hurt. Of course that is triggering. Any inkling, any tiny little indication that this person might hurt you in some way is going to send you into a response that would begin with fear and terror and could go anywhere. It could go to pulling away from that person. It could go to getting angry at that person. It could go to, again, like a depressive state or just being in an anxious state, on the lookout, hypervigilant, maybe even like accusing them of things, even if it's not happening. So a fear reaction is another thing that makes it really challenging to be in relationship. Not impossible. It's just, this is the way in which you will possibly be triggered. And when you're triggered, it's not actually possible to connect with the person in the way that you're wanting to. You need to learn how to calm yourself down before you can actually move in and connect. And thankfully, because a lot of the learning, the shame learning, this fear learning happened early in our childhood, a lot of the time we can learn new things. Oh, people are trustworthy, or oh, I'm actually enough. I'm a good person. Like, that's new information you can take in, and then suddenly you're not triggered by your partner in the same way. Thank goodness. So the last big one that I often see is just ignorance, where a person does not know what they do not know. Maybe in your family, you did not learn how to be really connected to another person. And so for you, it's challenging and maybe even triggering when your partner asks you for something and you're like, I don't know what you mean. What do you mean you want more connection? What do you mean you're upset whenever I said that? I was just being real and honest in myself. So it's possible that what could be happening for you or your partner, you can kind of be curious about them as well, although honestly, in the end, it's always best to be curious about yourself, because you can change you, you can't change anyone else. It is possible that you just did not learn something that would be relationally positive, and it causes you to get into these moments of disconnection or conflict with your partner. That is totally possible. This actually happens to a lot of people, where they might have lived in families where a relationship just wasn't nurtured. And so they don't know how to do it in the same way that somebody who grew up in a family where everyone was really loving and connected. Thankfully, once again, it's something you can learn. Those are the big three. There's one more kind of category that I wanted to touch on because I think it's good to know about. Forgetfulness. And I mean specifically forgetfulness that the other person's experience is as valid and real as our own. So let me give an example of this one, because it happens in relationship. It's very, very true. So something that can cause disconnection, something that can cause conflict, one of the reasons why we get triggered together, is I might forget that my partner and I are really different people, and that they have their own internal world that is very different than mine. And because of that, there will be times whenever I truly do not understand them and they don't understand me, and that's okay, because difference is a reality of life, and it's actually even a good thing. Like, difference and variety is what helps human beings, and probably other species if I really think about it. Yeah, absolutely. Difference and diversity is what helps our species grow. It is a positive thing. If we were all the same, we would not be challenged to grow beyond where we are now. And so when it comes to this forgetting, we might forget that they're a different person with different ideas. And that could be little like, oh, why doesn't my partner ever put down the toilet seat? Why don't they think of this? I've told this to them a million times. It bothers me so much. Well, it doesn't bother them. Actually, what bothers them is having to put down the toilet seat for you. Because for them, in their world, like, it's easier to leave the toilet seat up. They're actually doing you a favor by putting it down. So that's a small one. But then they could be bigger as well. Like, why doesn't my partner get that I really, really want to spend time with them on the weekend? Why are they always scheduling things with friends or working overtime on the weekend? I want to spend time with them. Why don't they get it? It is possible that they truly do not understand, because they're a different person, because they have different ideas about what they're needing. Maybe they're feeling really fulfilled in the relationship. Everything's good. We spend plenty of time together. So I'm going to work, because that's how I take care of you and my family. Like, these little moments where we just forget that the other person has a rich internal world that's different than ours. It happens all the time. But it's important just to be aware of inside yourself. When are you so sure that they should be thinking like you're thinking, that they should have the same idea as you, and that they're disrespecting you because they don't seem to believe the same thing, when in reality, they don't. And that's okay, because the difference makes sense. It's okay that they're different from you and they're thinking differently from you. I think another thing that can happen with forgetfulness is when we feel really triggered and hurt, it is easy to forget that the other person could be feeling just as triggered and hurt, but they might present differently. So I'm thinking about some of my couples whenever it comes to like the arguments about sex. Both of them want to connect sexually. And for one person, whenever they're really upset about this, they want to talk about it, they want to figure it out, they want to make a plan of action. And the other person, whenever they talk about this, their system shuts down. They feel terrible and they draw into themselves, and it feels like everything's collapsing in on them, and they can't have conversations. They just kind of disappear inside because it's so scary to try and talk about. And they can really feel like the other person doesn't get it because they don't. The difference, the reactions, make it hard to really empathize with the other person's experience. Because we human beings, man, we're built kind of forgetful and self-centered, and it's not our fault we're built that way, but it does take an effort to constantly remind ourselves to look at the other person and wonder what's going on with them. Be compassionate towards them. Know that they are different and that is okay. It's a practice. It's a skill you can build over time. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this. It's good to know the ways in which you might move into disconnection, some of the little places where you might get caught up. And we'll talk about how to move out of it. Like, that's also helpful. I know it is. But in truth, before you can ever think about changing yourself, you have to be fully aware of what's going on inside right now, what's causing your behavior today and in the past. Because until you know that, you cannot actually make anything different. People want the quick fix. Give me the tool, give me the skill, give me the thing that's going to make this better, which I totally get. I wish it was that easy. But it's really not. The thing that makes our lives better, the thing that makes our relationships better, is self-reflection. The ability to watch yourself as you think and act so that you can first acknowledge the reality as it is. Here's what I've been doing. Here's why. It makes sense based on my history. Hopefully you're doing all of that awareness with some compassion, because that will help your brain calm down enough that you can neurologically begin to learn new patterns. And then from there, naturally what unfolds is a process where you get to choose how you react in the future instead of just reacting from the normal place that you always have. So self-awareness is the key here. Learning about what you are doing, what you are feeling, what you are thinking right now that causes you problems and struggles in relationship, so that you can make different choices in the future. And I say choices, it does end up becoming a choice in the future once you have understanding. But while you're still in the reaction phase, you don't actually have a choice. You're just automatically having the response that you've always had based on all of your previous experience in this lifetime. So don't shame yourself for it. Don't call yourself a bad person. Just know that you can change these patterns and that you need to if you want to have a better relationship. It's your responsibility. Your partner hopefully will do their part as well, but cannot rely on another person to do your work, cannot rely on another person to make the relationship better. It is up to you to change your behavior. And then when you do that, because of how any dynamic, complex system works, when you grow and change, they will either grow and change with you or y'all will separate. That is how this works out in the end with relationship. All right. I hope you enjoyed this. Remember to hit the like button. Remember to subscribe to this channel if you would like more content about love, sex, and relationships. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.